Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today I am making a layout using the Sweet Summer kit from MercyTiara Kits based on a sketch that I jotted down in the kit planning tool that comes in our kits. You can see it right there on the table. That's our newsletter. It's all opened up to the page where the 6 sketching areas are. So you get a space for 6 separate sketches and then a place below to draw out some of your notes. And as you can see, I have quite a few sketches in place there. That's just because I was going through my iPad and trying to delete a bunch of files, and I came across some sketches. So I just jotted them in here so that I could remember to use them. Now I have these 2 photos, but I'm scrapbooking 2 photos, but only one of them is going to be this one. But I do have 2 copies of it, so that basically I'm trying to hold the space for the second layout. Not the second layout, but the second photo. And so you'll see me cut this one down to the same size. They're both cut at 3 by 3, although they were printed up at 3 by 4. I do have another square photo to put there. I'm just putting a little post-it note to remind myself that this is not the final one. I thought that I had a photo of all 3 girls around the table eating their desserts, but it turns out I just had a second picture of the desserts. So you will see that at the very, very end in the photos, but I don't get a chance to put that photo on until I'm off camera. I'm going to start by matting these photos in plain white cardstock. So this is just from my stash. I don't think that white cardstock came with this kit. I'm pretty sure it didn't. And so I'm just matting those because I didn't cut them down because I printed them at 3 by 4 and cut them at 3 by 3. They didn't have the right white border all the way around them. And what I'm thinking I will do here, although my sketch shows 4 photos all laid out across the horizontal plane of the page, what I'm going to do is actually have 4 squares. No, I'm going to have 3 squares, and one of them is not a square. One of them is going to be that little journaling piece there. I have the journaling piece in a plastic baggie because along with it are the acrylic pieces that came in this kit. So we have a beautiful acrylic title and also the word summer. I've already used the word summer in my last layout, which you can check out in the playlist, which is linked in the information cards for this video, if you missed it. But right now I am using the Sweet Summer acrylic titles. So sweet is in separate letters, and then the word summer is, it's like a layered acrylic version of summer. I am picking out a bunch of photos that I think are going to work with this page, and I definitely want to include that paper with the daisies that include some red daisies in it, because that's going to pick up not only in the red on the little journaling piece that I plan to use, but also there's red in the photo with the strawberry dessert. I'm scrapbooking a dessert called German spaghetti ice cream, and it is ice cream that is in these little strands. It looks like spaghetti, but it's actually ice cream. And I believe that the topping that looks like it is grated Parmesan cheese is actually white chocolate. So it sounds like it's pretty amazing. My daughters were in Germany not too long ago, so I am scrapbooking some photos that I wasn't actually there for. I'm going to start by outlining this journaling piece because it's going to hold my title. And at this point, I'm thinking I'm trying to decide on a background first. But at this point, I'm thinking I might leave that square intact. But I very quickly decided I think I'm going to actually fussy cut around it. It's a little bit tricky fussy cutting around these flowers, but once you get past the flowers, it's a pretty easy fussy cut all the way around the smoother edges of this rounded, squared shape. I'm leaving a tiny bit of a pink border around the outside edges of it, and I think that's going to tie in nicely with some of the pattern papers that I'm using. But now my journaling piece is more along the same scale as the photos that I have. The other way, it was too big. It was making itself feel a little bit off as far as the scale goes. So now you saw me pick all of these patterned papers and my sketch, which I'm not sure that you could see very well because it's very tiny on the page, but my sketch calls for a bunch of banner, kind of like long banners with fishtails on them. And so I'm going to cut myself a bunch of these pattern papers from the papers that I had picked out at the very beginning of this video, where I was just finding some patterns that would work really well together. This one is the one that doesn't work as well as the others, so this one is a bit of a stretch to make it fit because it does have those reddish and orangey colors in it that the other pieces don't have. It's also, I believe it's from a different collection than the other papers, all within the same MercyTiara kit. And so I'm going to, my fix for that, the fact that one of them kind of stands out from the others, is two things. First, I'm going to outline everything so that it looks like it belongs together. And secondly, I'm going to end up adding a second piece of that paper that looks different from the others, the one with the daisy flowers on it. And right now I have all three of those florals right beside each other, but I'm actually going to spread them out a little bit so that the other non-floral patterns will be in between them a little bit more. And I am just eyeballing it for these banners. I thought I had a punch. Well, I do. I have a punch that will put a banner, fishtail banner end on a piece of paper. And the problem is that it is a very, very narrow punch and it's only for fairly thin paper. I think it has to be 1 inch at the most in order for that punch to work. And I want these to be all different widths and all different lengths. So I am cutting them, as you see, just by hand. And then I'm just going back. If any of them look like it's just a little bit too off, I'm just going back in and fixing them up a little bit. But I'm trying not to obsess too much over the symmetry of those fishtail banners, because I want this page to look fairly loose and casual and kind of thrown together. I typically really like that look. Now, one thing that might have been helpful would have been to have outlined these before I glued them all together. The problem with outlining with them already glued together is that if you go off the edge of the paper, it will go on to the other piece that it's layered with. Here I am cutting that second piece of the floral. And, at first I was thinking, I don't love the fact that these two are on either ends. It looks a little bit symmetrical, but now that the whole page is done, it doesn't bother me at all that it's like that. And it didn't bother me enough when I was doing it to change it. Sometimes I'll change things if I notice that kind of a pattern, but in this case, it didn't bother me enough, so I just left it. So here I am outlining them while they're glued together. So like I said, this isn't the best idea, but this is the way I'm doing it because I'm thinking of it now. I'm just double outlining just to make it look nice and casual and a little bit sketchy looking. So I'll just go over it again. It's always faster the second time you go over something like this, so it shouldn't take me too long. There we go. And you'll notice that I'm not outlining the top, and that's because I haven't decided how long these are going to be. They're all going to be different lengths, so I will glue them all together thinking about how the bottom lines up with one another, and then I will come back and decide on the top. This is how it's going to look on the page, and ooh, I'm really liking that. It's going to need something so that these photos can pop out from the background, but for now, I think that this is looking really good. So what I'm doing here is I'm just drawing lines to decide where the height of some of these banners of paper are going to be. I'm just making it so that none of them are exactly lined up. Two of them are pretty close, but they're different enough. So that's how it's going to look on the page. And I'm really, really pleased with it. These patterns look so fun together. And this is another piece of paper that came in the kit. And I wanted to use it as a mat that would be basically a mat for all three of these elements. So I want to see how the word sweet, the phrase sweet summer, is going to fit on this journaling piece. And it became clear to me that I needed the whole journaling piece to be showing and not layered with the photo as I had it a few minutes ago. So I'm going to make it so that all three of these pieces are all spread out with a nice little bit of the dark blue paper matting around all of the edges of them. And then I'm just going to trim it down, and there's going to be more of the blue paper showing above those photos, above and below the photos, because they're just a little bit smaller than the journaling piece. That's actually going to be a title piece because that's where my title is going instead of my journaling. So I really do like how that looks, but I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be all of my title, if it's just going to be Sweet Summer, or if maybe I might add something else to it. So these Whatevs letter stickers came in the embellishment add-on for the Sweet Summer kit, and I really, really love them. As you can see, I've used a fair amount of them so far, but I think I'm going to make my title be just a little bit more than just Sweet Summer. So I'm going to spell out with these little puffy stickers. These are little circular puffy stickers, and I'm spelling out it's a. And with my apostrophe, what I'm doing is I just put a period, but I floated it up above the baseline of where the other letter stickers are. And then I use my white gel pen to turn that period into an apostrophe. And now I'm spelling out in Germany. And I really like how these circle letters look. I think that they give a real casual and fun look to a page, because they're not going to be lined up perfectly. I mean, unless if you spend a lot of time, they're not going to be lined up perfectly. And I really like that look. I like the imperfection of them. And at this point, I'm just putting 2 exclamation points there, but I don't like the balance of that. So I'm going to end up adding a 3rd exclamation point again. I am using my Art Glitter Designer Adhesive, Dries Clear, and because that comes in Dries Clear, and I think it also comes in a glossy finish as well. So I only have the Dries Clear kind, and I really like it. I am putting adhesive on the backs of each of those letters for the word sweet, and then also on the summer embellishment as well. I'm just using my little Stampin' Up! Pick to move those letters around. Between that and my fingernails, that is enough. And then I realized I forgot the letter/word A. So it just said it's Sweet Summer in Germany, and I forgot to put the A. So that's what I'm doing right there. I'm going to mess around with the alignment of these letters just to get them looking balanced and like they're spread nicely and balanced nicely with the rest of the title. And again, keeping that apostrophe up in the air is working quite well. And here's where I'm going to just add a 3rd exclamation point here so that it just looks, it was too aligned with the word in. So making it 3 letters there with those 3 exclamation points just helps that to look a little bit less symmetrical. So now I'm going to put this on the layer of the banners. And that fits perfectly. To be honest, I kind of wish that the banners stuck out a little bit more on either side or were in a little bit more so that the blue paper was sticking out more on either side. It's a little too close for comfort for my preferences, but once the whole page is all put together, it doesn't really matter. It's a really good, I like it when these things happen where I do things in a way that I don't normally do them, because it reminds me that some of these things don't really matter as much as we think they matter when we're just kind of like in our heads when we're making a page. So it's okay to, just see how things go. And by the time the page comes together, it's gonna look really great. I really love this page. Those patterns look so great together. I just love, love, love them. So now I'm just having another look through that, some of the embellishments, and I'm thinking about embellishing this, which is going to be a little bit tricky because of all of those background patterns, right? But then I realized, wait a second, I've already put this down and I haven't done any mixed media on it. And I have this beautiful creamies in, I'll tell you what the color is. It came in the mixed media kit. The color is Ride the Tide. And I just love this stuff. It's a dry substance that you add water to activate it, and it becomes like a watercolor. It's so nice. I thought about using my Tim Holtz mat there, but there's a reason I don't use it. It reflects quite a bit on my lights. This also reflects on my lights, but it's a little bit less intense. If you're wondering what this is, it is a Tri-Art palette, and I got it from my local art store. It's just basically a big piece of acrylic that's white, and it's used for, you can use it as a palette, but I just use it as a background to protect my work surface. I am going to use the packaging technique here. I have some old packaging that's actually pretty bent, and so it's a little bit harder to make this substance go where I want it to go, but it's one of those techniques, the packaging technique. The whole purpose of it is to make the mixed media be fairly random on your background. Instead of having paintbrush strokes or being exactly where you put it, you just kind of apply it to the packaging and just smoosh it on. And when you smoosh it, it's kind of spreads out in a nice random organic kind of a way, and it ends up looking really beautiful, as you can tell. I wanted a little bit of it up at the top, but I also wanted a lot of it at the bottom. Like I definitely wanted more coming out from around those fishtail banners, and then just a smaller amount up at the top. I'm using my heat gun to dry this, and as you can see, the page is curling a lot. I didn't put gesso or anything on it, and this is a fairly wet substance, and I am adding more water to it just to make it move around on the page more when I smoosh it on. And I'm putting a second layer here just to get a little bit of a more intense color. That first go around had quite a light blue tinge to it, so I wanted this to be just a little bit darker in some places. Adding a second layer like this, like drying it and then adding a second layer, makes it almost look like you've used two different colors of product, where it layers on top of itself. So you'll see those pencil marks. That's just where I marked where those banners were so that I could have a sense of where I needed some of the blue paint to be protruding from behind the banners. So this is I thought that this was my white splatters, but this is my black. This is black paint. So I have, in part of my process of changing around my room, I've come up with these two kits. One is a white paint splatter kit. This has some gouache and a paintbrush in it. And then I just use the lid as a palette. And so you just kind of put a tiny bit of paint in there, add some water, and then you can do some sprinkles. Now, obviously, white sprinkles on this is going to be very, very subtle, but I really do like the addition that it adds, and you'll get to see it in the photos at the end. It really does make a really nice touch. And also because there's some white in some of the papers in those layers, I wanted to make sure that there was at least a tiny bit of white on the background as well, because I am combining cream and white in this page, which sometimes you have to just be a little bit careful about making sure that you're balanced when you do that. This is a brand new tube of paint. It's from Studio Calico. It's actually very, very old. It was my friend Stephanie's, and she handed it down to me, and it hasn't been opened before, even though it is quite old. And so I am just mixing it here in the lid of my little paint tin. And then I'm just splattering it just by tapping on my paintbrush so that it lands in a random way, some along the top and some along the bottom. And I really like how that looks. And having my paint splatter in those little tins just helps me keep it all contained and clean it up really easily. And I just keep the same brush in there. And I think that that's going to work really well for me. It has been so far. I would love to use this floral right here, but it's really, I keep losing it amongst it doesn't have enough boldness amongst the other things that are there, like those strips. And so I thought maybe if I added that wood grain strip, that might add a bit of anchoring for the little floral sticker. I'm also just having a look at what else came in the kit. I have used a lot of this kit. There's also these mixed media pieces of tissue paper, and I've got some sequin mix there, like some confetti. I'm just having a look because this is a food layout. I thought there might be something in this little set of die cuts. I've already used a lot of those die cuts. All of my favorite ones already went into my mini album. I did make a mini album with this kit, and if you missed it, it's also in the playlist. Every month I make a playlist of all of the projects that I make with that month's kit. So you can check that out. It's linked in the information section in a card. So I'm just going to scooch that floral piece over a little bit, and I just had to fix the wood grain piece first and see how that floral is really getting lost amongst those patterned papers that it's on top of. That's going to bug me, and I'm going to do a few things to try to fix that. There's this tiny little flower that matches with the blue floral, and I'm just going to put that beside the little sticker that says sweets. So far I have a floral sticker, I have that wood grain sticker, and then I have the sweets and a little daisy sticker too. Now, to try to make this floral pop out a little bit more from my background, I'm just using a black slick surface pen. These stickers have a shiny surface on them, so a lot of markers are going to just not dry on it. They're just going to wipe off. And so you do have to make sure that you're using a slick surface pen. And I'm just adding little black, I called them highlights when I was chatting with my tiaras as I did this, but they're actually lowlights, of course, because they're black. White would be highlights. I'm going to cut another little tiny piece of this paper with a little upside down flag, and I'm going to make it even smaller. And I'm just pushing that banner down a little bit because I wanted to see more of the little flower pattern on it. And I'm just going to staple that down in the bottom corner. I did outline it so that it matches with the other flag banners that are on there. And that's going to be a little place. I stapled it in place, and it's going to be a little spot that will bring your attention to the roller date stamp that I'm going to be putting on. I just had to check the date of this photo, and it was July 27th of this year. So I'm just using my roller date stamp to stamp that down there using VersaFine black onyx ink. So this layout is almost done, but it's not quite done. So in a few seconds here, you're going to see me recognize that I didn't write down the name of the dessert, so I'm just writing German spaghetti ice cream. It does have a German name too, but that's the common name that our friends used to describe it. I thought about using some confetti mix here, but I'm not going to. What I am going to add is some rubber pieces or puffy sticker pieces. They're not rubber, they're puffy. And so I put a little plus down in the bottom corner. That just brings some of that bluey greeny color into the bottom corner to balance it off. And then to repeat the puffiness, I added 2 other puffy stickers, as you saw. Now there is a little bit more to the process. I added more. I came back after the page was done, but I first wanted to give a little shout out to my Patreon supporters. These tiaras help make this channel happen, so big thanks to them. And I made 2 other layouts, and then I was just about to finish live streaming with the tiaras, and I decided, hang on, this needs a little something else. Remember how I added that black outlining to the floral piece to make it pop out a little bit? It was still just blending in a little bit too much with the background. So I just took a scallop circle punch and I'm outlining it here. I was going to outline it on the page, but that seemed a little bit too dangerous for me. So I played it safe and outlined it on my desk. I'm going to just tuck it in there. And I think that just adds enough popping to really make that stand out enough that I'm satisfied with it. Here's that title up close and a few other photos of some of the close-ups. I really love the shimmer that is in that Creamies Ride the Tide. Just love that stuff. It's so much fun to work with. And those black splatters really do add quite a bit to the page. Here are some of the places where you can reach me if you're looking for me, and our kits. The website is right there. We also have a really fun Facebook group that you should check out. It's linked in the information section below, as well as on the page. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. It really does help my channel grow. So thanks so much for watching, and have a really great scrappy week.